Hey everybody, this is Brad Dyke reaching out to you saying hi. Today on my technical discussion forum, which is more of the logical nature of things opposed to the physical nature of things, we're going to talk about the ability and handling of the way that you want to structure your standards. Believe it or not, in operations and in DevOps, the most important thing that you need to do is establish your standard operating procedures, also referred to as SOP. Now, the SOP process basically allows you to have a place where each and every one of your admins can go to execute the same complex set of steps that you have done yourself. Because inevitably, when you have the architects and responsibilities, the architect's roles and functions need to be able to be executed by everybody in the equation. And that's very important. So, with that being the case, the very first thing you've got to do as let's say, for instance, you want to be an aspiring director or a project lead on an implementation, understand, like I understood back in 9/11 when I was working with the Air Force, that somebody could bomb the facility that I'm in. And because of that very detail, the nature and the capacity of my operations could be impaired because of the capacity of everything I did was not documented, right? And because it wasn't documented, I'm like the only one who knows, right? So I'm a single point of failure. So a standard operating procedure guideline is very important, as well as being able to get to it as quickly as possible. So with that being said, standards is the second thing that's also very important. Standards means how you identify things. How do you identify and name them? How do you quantify an AWS instance? How do you quantify a snapshot? Why is it important to identify both the start date and the date that you want to make sure that the snapshot is removed so that you can be cost effective and not waste money on basically snapshots that will never get used again? And so many other things like VPCs, TLCs, access control lists, and so many other things. The bottom line is that if you take the time and be strategic in your nature, then breathe. This is the important detail. Take a breath. Think. Nothing short term. If you immediately give a fix for a problem, then all you did was put a band aid on something that's coming back, right? But if you actually think the process out more functionally and add time to it and think it out, then the naming conventions or the standards or the guidelines at which you put into play will have a prolonged effect. And that effect is going to be able to give you the ability of rinse and repeat and consistency. This is important, consistency. So when you have yourself set up an environment, for instance, let's say you have Proxmox, or you have Teradata, or you have VMware, or you have AWS, or whatever variation of instances, your environments, or your Docker, or your any other variation that will be coming down the road. When you look at it, it's important to make sure that it makes sense. So think it out. Make sure that as a leader or as a project lead, you're thinking, okay, how do I want to repeat this process? How do I want to make this functional? How do I want to make this progressive in its own capacity? This is important because standards allow operations to be repeatable. When you're the single point of failure in a company, you are impeding the company. That's the truth. I can't tell you how many people I've come across who feel like it's important that they are the single point of failure for the company. That assures them in some weird kind of way that they have a job. So far wrong. They have no idea. They're actually targeted for removal because they're trying to engineer their survival to the company's survival. You should never do that. What you should do is you should take the time, strategize the nature of your objective. And if you unfortunately are hit by a car, or yes, God forbid, a bomb blows up your data center, your environments, your work, your capacity is able to continue going forward. That's the true mission statement. That's the key detail here. It's very important that when you start to think out how you want to bring up, let's say, Docker, to start replacing some of the workload in AWS or VMware, that you think, okay, I want to make it really easy. I want to make it transparent. That's a very important word. Anyone who comes on board, even a new admin, they could very quickly walk through the steps and get themselves to the point of execution. Execution means success. Not always does our executions mean something that we document very well, because there are variables. A great example of that variable is AWS. AWS is notorious for making changes to their menu systems and not telling you. Unless you're periodically reading all of their documentation that they send out in newsletters, you kind of discover that that link that you had in your SOP was no longer there. It's 2 layers to the left or to the right or down or above. And it doesn't matter how much of a veteran you are, even if you've got 32 years, guess what? You got to go hunting again for the link so that you can do whatever you want to do, such as a snapshot and so on. But standards are important, because even when that happens, the general sense of what you're trying to accomplish is fully documented. Documentation, documentation, document your standard operating procedures. By doing that, you're not the burden. You're not the crucible. You don't have to carry that burden yourself. You can instead disseminate and delegate those responsibilities to other people, who can in turn, with your mentoring, of course, to see if they can do it themselves. So, with that being said, I bring this to the table again because it's very important as a director or as a lead in an environment that's an enterprise level capacity, that you really have got to think these things out. And you won't stop. You'll be doing it constantly for a long time, pretty much till the day you stop working. With that being said, this is Brad Dyke. I'm signing off. I'm going to let you guys go. This is just a small little blurb that I do on the logic side opposed to the physical side. And God bless and have a great week. I'll let you go. Bye-bye.